November 22nd, 1963, the event that shook the world. Cover-ups, mystery, and conspiracy draw a veil over this event. The most convoluted assassination of all time. What are they hiding?
He places something on his right cheek, he brings the hand down, and you can clearly see right here, there's something there.
From a lone gunman to multiple shooters, the mob and CIA involvement.
So they told no one that there was 2 splices in the Zapruder film, but in 1967 they admitted there was a splice at frame 212, but they didn't tell us about the splice at 154. Now this is evidence being used in the murder of the President of the United States, and this evidence has been altered.
The most highly debated event in history.
That's just the neck wound. You couple that with a head wound, now you got blood everywhere. It's evidence of fakery.
Why hasn't the government released all of the JFK files?
They didn't discover the .30 caliber rifle until a couple hours after the assassination. Lee Harvey Oswald killed 2 people that day. Not one person in Dealey Plaza or anywhere else in Dallas that day saw a man firing a rifle.
The event that some have dedicated to researching their entire lives.
They know what happened and they don't care. Why bother following up on leads when you know that's not what happened? So the reason that the FBI is not following up on all these great leads is because the FBI doesn't want to waste their energy and their resources following up on stuff that isn't true.
Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. Tonight, I thought we would go down a little different of a rabbit hole than usual. The JFK assassination has been an interest of mine for quite some time, along with most conspiracies. But this one is perhaps the darkest and strangest of rabbit holes to go down. There seems to be, over the years, an incredible amount of conspiracy theories surrounding the assassination of JFK. I should mention that I myself am fairly familiar with firearms, and I've always found it extremely hard to believe that someone could make that shot from those distances with a bolt-action rifle. And to anybody who's fired a bolt-action rifle knows how difficult it is to put off 3 extremely accurate shots in a period of 6 seconds. That alone makes me doubt the single bullet theory or the magic bullet theory. There's been an incredible amount of investigation, but the government has continued to stonewall us and refuses, even after the government passed a law that all of the documents related to JFK had to be released by law by 2016. We've had several presidents now refuse to do so, including President Trump, and most recently, President Biden has just essentially, President Trump kicked the can and set new date. And then Biden came in and just essentially recently said, we're never going to release those. Is that an illegal action then? Since the people wanted a law to have all of the documents released, they were never released. And I've heard CIA people say, well, we released 99% of them. Yeah, but it's the 1% that they don't want us to see. There's also a famous story about Judge Napolitano, a once close friend of Donald Trump, who, when Donald Trump made that decision, called him up. And by the way, this is on the record. He has said this publicly. He called up Donald Trump and he said, what are you doing, Donald? You promised your voters. You promised everybody that you were going to release all those files. And famously, and Judge Napolitano recounted this story, famously, Donald Trump said, I can't release the files. Nobody could. If you saw what was in those files, you couldn't release them either. So there are still an incredible amount of deep, dark secrets surrounding the assassination of JFK. There have been years of rumors of CIA involvement. A lot of people don't know that Lee Harvey Oswald was literally a CIA asset for some time. Now, there's a lot of theories that may explain why they're hesitant to release these files. Some people say the CIA was directly involved. After all, JFK famously said that he wanted to take the CIA and smash it into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the wind. And the reason that JFK started his own, essentially his own intelligence agency is because he did not trust the CIA. They try to force him into getting into wars that he thought were not in the in our American best interest, including, overthrowing Castro, invading Cuba. When the missile crisis happened with the Cuban Missile Crisis, there were people that were telling him, we have to go to war with Russia right now. And thank God cooler heads prevailed. He and his brother were adamantly opposed to the power that the CIA had been granted itself to conduct, foreign military operations. We see what the CIA does. They overthrow governments. We have no right to just overthrow a democratically elected government, but this is what the CIA has done. Their power has grown and grown and grown. They've never been put in check. This was one president who tried to put them in check, and we see what happened. His brother, his wife, all have suspected the CIA of being directly involved with the assassination. And most recently, RFK Jr. has directly and aggressively accused the CIA of being involved in a plot to assassinate both JFK and RFK. And I find it fascinating that our own government could have been responsible for the death or assassination of two beloved American figures in the form of both JFK and RFK. Now, I've read a lot of books on the JFK assassination, and one of the things that I've discovered is that you get a lot of the same conspiracy theories about what happened: the Grassy Knoll, multiple shooters, CIA involvement in the plot. There's an incredible amount of inconsistencies. For example, if you watch the Zapruder film, famous Zapruder film, and then you look at the actual autopsy photos, a lot of things don't make sense. In the Zapruder film, clearly he's hit on the side of his head, and a huge chunk of his head explodes. But the autopsy photos show a wound to the back of the head, which makes no sense. There's so many inconsistencies here. Now, as I said, I've read a lot of books and watched every documentary probably made about this event. I find this whole event, fascinating. But one of the things I noticed is that all of them have a lot of the same conspiracy theories over and over again. But this new film that our friend Ryder Lee from Raised by Giants, he's been a guest here before, has produced, it's very interesting in that it presents an entirely different or new theory that I'd never heard before. And it made me go rushing to look at the Zapruder film again. And I think this is an interesting film, but I want to also be sure that I put the disclaimer that I'm not endorsing that this is 100% what happened. A lot of people get things mixed up, like, you host this filmmaker, so you agree with everything that's it. No, but I think that this film gives an interesting, different perspective, and there's some new information in here that I've never seen before, specifically about the police officer that was killed hours before the president. It's just, or excuse me, hours after. Interesting that this whole situation is just it's fascinating to me to look, and I want to see all the information, and I want to hear all the theories and make up my own mind. And I hope you do too. We can't accept one information source, especially when we're dealing with some speculation and theories. So joining me to talk about this film, which I highly recommend, there's a link in the description to both the trailer and the link on Amazon where you can watch the film or get the film as well. Joining me is Ryder Lee of Raised by Giants. Welcome there, Ryder.
What's up, Steve? Thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you sticking to your word, too, because I reached out to a few people to have me on to talk about it, and they refused. They canceled the last minute. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think I have an idea why. So tell me what got you down this rabbit hole. Is it just the same as me, that this is just an incredible, all these inconsistencies in the official story versus the information available, or what was it that got you? Because it takes a lot of passion and time and energy to make a whole documentary film like this, right?
Yeah, and I think that anybody that watches it or rents it on Amazon, it's really affordable too. It's only $1.99 to rent and $4.99 to buy. I think that anybody that watches even the first 15 minutes is going to see how much time and effort and research that I put in to making this documentary. Anybody that has, ever edited a video or done anything like that, or even tried to make a documentary, like
it's 90 minutes. I can't, I can sometimes put a whole week into a 5-minute video. So I can imagine what a 90-minute video takes. It takes everything and a whole lot more. Yeah.
I was working on it from the time that I woke up in the morning to the time that I went to sleep, and sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night and couldn't sleep, and I would start working on it. So it took a lot of energy and time and effort, but it's a huge shout out to Jay Widener for taking a chance on me. If you're listening, Jay, thank you for, because I literally, well, what had happened is I was bringing Jay on my show to talk about The Shining, because he's did several documentaries, surrounding The Shining and Stanley Kubrick and all that. And I brought him on to talk about The Shining, and I was watching The Shining every single day over and over and over again to try and find something new, because I kind of feel like that The Shining is one of those things. It's sort of like the JFK assassination, when there's so many different theories surrounding it. And I was watching it every single day over and over and over again just to try and find something new. And I did right before the day that I was supposed to bring him on my show to talk about it. And I presented my theory surrounding The Shining. I'm like, Jay, I think I really figured this whole thing out. I think I solved what's going on here within The Shining movie. And he was like, yeah, I think you did. And then a couple of months later, I hit him up and I was like, hey, we should, because Jay's been retired from filmmaking for a long time. And I was like, hey, we should make a documentary about my theory surrounding The Shining. I think that it would be really good. No one's come up with any new theories surrounding The Shining for a really long time. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So we started writing The Shining. And I was already familiar with JFK because I brought him on my show to talk about what he believed happened on November 22nd, 1963. And he was like, well, the 60th anniversary is coming up soon. RFK Jr. just announced his candidacy for president. So why don't we just make this this JFK film? I was like, all right, let's do that one first, and we'll do the Shining film second. And then we've also decided on doing a third film. So it's going to be like a trilogy of films, and we're going to just start breaking down reality. And what got me really interested in it was it's kind of the very first conspiracy theory. It's kind of what launched this whole conspiracy culture into the foreground of the population and the foreground of the world, right? Because it was like what you were saying in this intro is the autopsy photos are completely different than what the Zapruder film shows, right? The Warren Commission says that 3 shots rang out that day. The first one hit JFK in the neck. The second shot missed, and the third shot hit him in the back of the head. But that's not what the Zapruder film shows. The Zapruder film clearly shows a shot from the right side. His head goes back into the left. And we have the clearest version of the Zapruder film ever made. We've put it through brand new technology that cleans up everything and remove scratches, because that was the problem in the beginning, was finding a very clear version of the Zapruder film.
Yeah, and
And
do you recall, is that 8 or 16 millimeter original footage that this was originally filmed on?
it was 8mm film, I believe.
Yeah, and my dad, growing up, my father had 8 millimeter, and I remember like it's pretty grainy, crappy quality. I mean, it's pretty bad when like VHS camcorders is like so much better than an 8 millimeter film. And an interesting point brought up by Jay in the film that I never realized is that here you had perhaps one of the most popular presidents that there has ever been, and he's coming to visit for a parade and in his honor and all of these things. There's three news affiliates: ABC, NBC, and CBS in Dallas, Texas. Not one news agency sent a film camera or crew to film this, and I find that extremely troublesome, because he was incredibly popular and his wife was hugely popular, perhaps the most beloved first lady there ever has been. You hear all this stuff about Camelot. They were like the king and queen of America, and everybody loved them, yet the local news didn't think that they should go and film his visiting the city. It doesn't make sense.
But there's something
Not
interesting that we
Yeah.
do present in the film, which is a photograph of a news cameraman filming there, but he wasn't filming the president.
Yeah,
He was filming the bystanders of the parade.
Yeah,
Right?
and that makes no sense. And I'd never seen that before either. Oh, we want to thank Richard Crawley for a kind and generous $6.99 Canadian. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. We appreciate you. But I found I never had heard that there was three. One of the reasons I like the film is that there's a lot of information I didn't know in this film, and that part about that Jay brings up, a very good and important point is, you got three major news companies in Dallas, Texas, and not one thought, let's go film the president's visit, and Jay brings up the point that we should have 4 films. We should have one from each of the news people, and one, and by the way, they have filmed a lot less important visits to Dallas. They did go out and film. I did some checking. So for them to all three say, we're not going to film this, is very suspicious to me. And all we're left with is, thank God this Zapruder was there just to see the president. He had an 8mm film, and that's where we get the famous footage from. But isn't there also a lot of conspiracies about the Zapruder film being like confiscated and perhaps altered before we get to see it? And then, right?
Yeah, there's 2 splices in the Zapruder film. The first one happens at 1:33, but that one has been kind of looked at weirdly, because some people think that wasn't an actual splice. It was Zapruder turning on and off his camera. But if you look at it as a filmmaker, then any cut in a film is still a splice, regardless if you turned off your camera. Yeah. And then the second most important one happens at 2:07, and that splice, there's 4 frames missing. It starts back up at 2:12, right as the limousine is going in behind the Stemmons freeway sign.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has been altered, and there's several people that, I mean, you can just look, and we show in the film, it's not something that we discovered, but other people have discovered, is when you're watching the Zapruder film and it's going through Dealey Plaza, the people in the background are bigger than the people in the foreground, which is impossible. That cannot happen. It's statistically impossible. There's something in the background. The people in the background that are in that little park there across the road from where Zapruder is filming are bigger than the limousine, JFK, Connolly, his wife, and Jack.
Yeah, and I never really noticed that before. But once, isn't that funny that sometimes your perceptions are just not very good about things like that, about depth and about size? I mean, it's not like right in your face that they're bigger, But once you guys talked about this in the film, I went and looked at it again, and I went, yeah, this doesn't make sense. They should be smaller because they're further away from the camera. And I filmed a lot of stuff, so have you. That's just a general rule that if you've got people in the foreground and people in the background, the people in the background will be visibly smaller in the frame than the people in the foreground. But in this, it does look as if, you know, they're bigger in the background. And so
it's said that it was put through some sort of optical printer and to lower the limousine in the frame, because right as JFK and Connolly and his wife and Jackie emerge after the splice from behind the Stemmons freeway sign, the limousine drops to the bottom of the frame, right, to where you can't really tell a lot what's going on in the bottom of the frame, whenever the bottom of the frame was completely in focus before it went behind the Stemmons freeway sign. Right, so people have concluded that the Zapruder film has been optically changed or put through some kind of optical printer to cut out the limousine and then lower the limousine in the frame, and that's why the people in the background are smaller, because they couldn't get the exact dimensions.
Or bigger,
right.
You mean? People in the background will be bigger, yeah. And the other thing that really stood out to me as something really new to me, because I had never heard of this, I had never thought about this, is this police officer, Tibbet, who was also murdered the same day, bears an incredibly striking resemblance to JFK. And I don't want to give away everything from your film, but I think that's something that was news to me. Like, and the fact that nobody ever talked about that was kind of suspicious to me. You know, it's like, wait a minute, these guys look. Here, I have. If you don't mind, I'll share a couple of stills from that you shared. Okay.
Yeah.
So.
That's the thing, is that people don't even realize that Oswald was originally arrested for the murder of a police officer named J.D. Tippit. Right, he was never arrested for the murder of the president. That's what the public automatically put on him, because we show it in the film. We go over all of Oswald's background and his backstory. The first 30 minutes of the film is basically retreading through a lot of the theories and giving you the background of a lot of the people that were involved. And we go through that, and he states that he's only been charged for the murder of a police officer, and that's all that he knows. And then other people were like, "Oh, did you murder the president? You must have also murdered the president as well." And he's like, "I don't know anything about murdering the president." He didn't even know that the president had been murdered. It didn't seem like, right?
Yeah, well, and then there's the famous, I'm a patsy, which is pretty specific language, as Jay points out in your film, to use the word patsy, which would mean somebody that is being, held up for a crime that they didn't do to protect the person that really did it. Now, in this still, it's not quite as obvious that they look so much alike. I mean, there's definitely a resemblance here, but when you did that side by side, I thought, this is crazy.
Yep.
When you do the side by side, it's dead ringer, you know? And so,
absolutely.
So Jay's essential theory is that Tibbet was murdered so that they would have a body to show, to use in the cover up, essentially, right?
Well, I mean, that's the thing about this, is that the autopsy photos show a shot to the back of the head. Guess who was shot in the back of the head? J.D. Tippit was shot in the back of the head. He was also shot in the back, right? But that's not what the Zapruder film shows. Again, the Zapruder film shows a shot to the side of the head. His head goes back into the left. It could not have come from behind. His head would go forward if he was shot from behind. It goes like this. It goes back into the left. If he was shot in the back of the head, he would have went forward. He didn't. So the autopsy photos show a shot to the back of the head. It shows a shot to the back. Those are the two exact places that J.D. Tippit was shot.
Yeah, and I had never connected the dots between those two before. And again, not to give away too much from the film, but Jay's theory is sort of that JFK knew that they were going to murder him, so may have faked his own death. But putting that aside for a moment and bringing in all the CIA conspiracies, it could be just as likely, perhaps, right, that the CIA knew they were going to murder JFK and they wanted a body double to obfuscate or, whatever to cover up what really happened to actual JFK. Just the fact that these two people were murdered within 45 minutes of each other, and they bear such an incredible, striking resemblance to each other, especially in this side by side. They could be twins or brothers.
Yeah, it's really wild, and also with the people thinking that, because whenever people think of a new JFK film, right, they think, oh, well, they're just going to rehash all the old stuff. It's just that the CIA did it, that it was the driver of the limousine, that it was the Grassy Knoll shooter, that it was the mob, which we do cover a lot of that. One of my favorite sections of the film is whenever we really do a hard investigation into the mob, because RFK, which is JFK's brother, was really going after the mob. Like he was, you listen to it in the film, literally everything that he was saying while prosecuting these mobsters in court is what's been parroted through the conspiracy community even today, right? He's talking about the exact same things that people are talking about today, just in different words, right? He's talking about how he's uncovered this grand conspiracy of governmental organized crime, right? And that the members are 7 to 12 members of each organization, right? It's the exact same thing that people have been talking about for years. And when the JFK researchers talk about JFK, they don't ever really mention RFK and what he was doing to actually take down the mob, right?
Yeah,
and
you're absolutely right. Yeah.
That gave the mob an incentive to want to kill JFK.
Right? Well, yeah, I always thought that the if you look at who had the most to gain or who had a huge motive to murder JFK, you got to look at the mob. You have to look at the CIA. You have to look at who they were messing with, and they were messing with both the CIA. And JFK was pushing back against the CIA's insistence that he do certain things. And they weren't used to that. They were used to getting their way. And I always found it incredibly suspicious that he wouldn't do what they wanted. And the next thing you know, he's murdered,
Yep. And we also have the audio recording of James Muleteer that was taken a month before the assassination, that basically from an FBI informant that had this recording that was talking to this gentleman, James Muleteer, saying how he would, if he were to murder the president, exactly how he would do it. So it was like a huge foreshadowing, and everything that was said in that audio recording of James Muleteer is exactly what they'd done. Right? I don't know if that's a huge coincidence or not, but everything that James Muleteer said, he said, oh, well, you wouldn't have to bring a rifle up to one of those buildings. You can break it down. It comes in parts, right? You can take it up piece by piece, right? And then they were like, oh, well, wouldn't the Secret Service know what was going on? And he was like, well, not if they didn't suspect that it was going to happen. You would be able to get away with it. And then they were like, oh, well, how would you actually get away with it? And he was like, oh, well, they would pick somebody up and hours, or if not minutes, after the assassination for public perception, which is exactly what they did. They picked up Oswald and pretty much strung him up for the murder of JFK whenever he wasn't even charged with the murder of JFK.
Yeah, so and I always found it suspicious too that this anonymous phone call comes in, and then they go and they get him right in the theater that he was hiding in, which it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you think in a crowded theater, there would be 10 guys that fit whatever description they're looking for, but they just grab him instantly. And then, case closed. We got the murderer. He also killed this cop while he was escaping. And that's another thing that seems ridiculous to me. like if you were trying to get away from a murder scene, you would sort of be in the shadows. You wouldn't be, shooting at cops, having shootouts in the middle of the street. It just always seemed strange to me,
And then there was also, we discussed in the film and show evidence and proof for that Oswald was given a paraffin test as well. And it was proven without a shadow of a doubt that Oswald did not fire a rifle that day.
Yeah, I always found that incredibly suspicious as well. So here we have a guy that didn't fire a rifle, and then the other thing is that I'm very familiar with bolt action rifles. That's mostly what I've shot in my life. I don't know why, but I do know why. When I was young, in the Boy Scouts, they had bolt action 22s at this camp that we went. That's where I learned to target shoot, and I learned about guns there. And then after that, when I got a little older, since I was already so familiar with that exact gun and had fired it so much, I got another 22 bolt action rifle. Now this was a 30 caliber bolt action rifle, slightly larger, but the issue of the 3 shots in 6 seconds, I mean, there are people that can do it, but it wasn't what was he was in the Marines and he was not a sniper. And to me, to make a shot that accurate and that quickly, and again, 2 of them would have been hits, 1 not hit, but 2, if you hit 2 out of 3 shots in 6 seconds at a moving target, that's how far away was it? I always forget, but I mean, hundreds of feet away from you, and you're 6 floors up, and the target is moving. 2 out of 3 shots in 6 seconds hit the target. That's incredible. Would take an incredible marksman to pull it off. And I've heard various theories. Some snipers have said I could never make that shot. Others have said, yes, I could. I've seen some testing the History Channel did, but they had to get like 10 guys before they got 1 guy that could make the shot.
But that's the thing, though, Steve, is how can someone hit someone from the right side whenever the book depository is behind them?
Yeah.
You can't.
All this
you
stuff
can't
doesn't
do that.
make any sense. Doesn't make any sense at all.
The book depository is far in the background. If you if you looked up a picture right now, I might have a picture that I can share with you of this, but just to put it in perspective, I mean, the book depository is so far behind where JFK was supposedly assassinated that it doesn't. Here's a scale model of it. Hold on a second.
You're right. Remember your mission. That's a very good point. Not from that distance on a rifle you had to assemble without zeroing. Yeah. And, the other issue is that, it just, everything seems so convenient, here's a guy who works for the book depository. There's nobody up there watching him assemble a rifle. It doesn't take 2 minutes to assemble a rifle. You had to be up there for a little while assembling the rifle.
So I got the share screen. You just have to.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So yeah, this shows you from where JFK was apparently assassinated. Right down here, the book depository is up here. There's a line going directly from the 6th floor of the book depository to where there's no way that it could hit him in the right side and make his head go back into the left. If it hit him in the back of the head, his head's going to go forward. It doesn't make any sense. So the shots could not have come from the book depository, and they also couldn't have come from the Grassy Knoll either. Because look,
here we have a Marine himself. This is Gunner 65. He's a Marine. He's saying, "No way, not with that rifle." I always wanted to buy a 30 caliber Italian, the same rifle, and just for my own sanity, try to make far away shots or try to shoot it 3 times in 6 seconds. See if how difficult that is. But on a 22, I would have real trouble, real trouble. Even just shooting it 3 times and having 0 accuracy, just to shoot it 3 times in 6 seconds. Because for people unaware, you shoot, you pull that cock back, you have to load the bullet, push it back, aim, and fire. You're going to do that 3 times perfectly in 2-second intervals. It's very, very difficult.
Yeah, it's really ridiculous. And also the Grassy Knoll shooter, I want to mention this as well with this image that's already up. Right here is the Grassy Knoll, right? I don't know. Can you see my cursor? Does it show my cursor on the thing?
Oh,
or
no,
is it
it's
just
not
showing?
showing. No.
All right, well,
yeah, we could see the Grassy Knoll.
Okay,
there.
it says Grassy Knoll right here. So
yeah, in the bottom left corner, yes.
Yeah, the bottom left corner right here is where Zapruder is filming with his 8mm Bolex camera right here at the bottom of that pergola, right? And the conspiracy theorists say that the shooter at the Grassy Knoll was behind the fence that's behind the pergola, right? That would be that in between those 2 trees right there, right behind the pergola, right before the parking lot right there. So that would mean that the shooter was shooting directly over Abraham Zapruder's head.
Yeah, and he didn't ever talk about, hearing a shot behind him or a shot going over his head, right?
He didn't move. The camera stays steady. There's no shaking of the camera. If
you would think if there's a bullet, a 30 caliber bullet, it makes a huge bang. If that was within 20, 30, 50 feet behind you, a gun going off while you're filming something, you're going to react. You're going to move. You're going to jump. There was no jump.
There was no jump. He was steady. He kept the camera steady. No one is reacting to any gunshots. If there was 3 gunshots that happened that day, like the Warren Commission says there was, then people would be reacting. You would be reacting on the very first shot, but there's no other shots, right?
Yeah. And Rich says that's easy with a rifle.
But it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work that way. You can't shoot something in front of somebody from behind.
Yeah.
But even if you were able to make the shot would have hit him in the back of the head, not in the side.
And I always think when people, people do like to debate this issue. I always tell people go film yourself making the shot. Get a moving target, get the distances involved, be 6 stories up in a building, and try to make those shots. I just know that I couldn't do it. I know that there are military snipers who said that they couldn't do it. Some of them have tried it, and were unable to make the shot. It is an incredibly difficult shot to make. And we also have to keep in mind that I also want to be sure to acknowledge that a highly motivated person can sometimes do things that normal people can't do. If Oswald was truly incredibly motivated to do this, he could have went and practiced for 6 months somewhere to do this, and we just don't know. They're not aware of all of his whereabouts and movements for the 6 months leading up to his. They know some of the they filled in some of the blanks, but
here's the other thing though, Steve, is where is the blood? Where's the blood from the shots?
This is another point that is a problem. If the shot came from the back or the front, there would be blood spatter on the back of the limousine, and that's something I never thought about. When you see the Zapruder film, you see Jackie, and I always thought that like a chunk of his head flew back, and she was going to grab that. She was panicking or whatever. That's the explanation I've heard most for why she was reaching to the back of the trunk of the limousine lid, the trunk lid, but there's no blood spatter. And if you shoot somebody in the head, either in the front or the back, the area around them, there's going to be blood spatter, right?
Yep. And then Connolly, Governor Connolly, is interviewed almost like 2 days after the apparent assassination, and he's saying that he saw blood all over the back of the trunk whenever JFK was apparently shot, right? But you watch the Zapruder film, there's no blood on the back of the trunk. There's nothing, nothing at all. And if you're shot in the neck, right, as the conspiracy theorists or as the Warren Commission stated that he was actually shot, that he was shot in the neck. Some say in the front of the neck, other people say in the back of the neck. Who knows, right? But that would produce a lot of blood. If you're shot in the neck, you're going to see blood, but you don't
Yeah,
see any blood, right?
yeah,
All the
and that's something that I sort of missed before that I never really thought about. But what we see here, I have a shot of that frame that she's going to the back of the film for. Let me get that here. There's no blood spatter. There's no. There would also be, you know, tissue. There'd be brain matter all over. When somebody's shot in the head, you know, it's like their head literally explode. You see JFK's head, the side of his head looks like, you know, a good portion of it literally explodes. There would be blood. There would be, you know, there's just no blood spatter, you know, that's troubling to me. And we don't see what we would expect to see. And again, I'm not a forensic expert or whatever, so maybe there's some explanation for that, but that is extremely troubling. This guy's head is literally, you know, a quarter of it or an eighth of it, a big section of his head is blown off. There would be tissue, there would be, you know, blood spatter everywhere, both in both directions, because you got an entry wound and then you would have an exit wound. So there'd be blood spatter both ways, and we just don't see that either way with this film. And
yeah, and we show what Jackie is retrieving on the hood of the vehicle in the film, and I'm not going to ruin it for people because I do want people to actually.
There's a pretty interesting, this film includes a pretty interesting new theory about what actually happened that is brand new. I haven't heard it before. It made me think a lot about it. It made me go, after I watched this, I had to go research things. And by the way, the device that they're talking about, I have seen up close, and I don't know. I got to see the super high res. You know, I'm going to be looking at this Zapruder film with new eyes now, because a lot of things that were brought up in your film I didn't think about before, like the blood spatter, the lack of blood spatter. And the other thing that's troubling to me is, you know, you have the whole government investigation, and they've got expert pathologists and forensics people and criminologists all looking at this. Why did nobody bring up that there was a lack of blood spatter and, you know, brain matter and tissue?
It's because
I've never heard it brought up.
There was a huge fight and a huge debate between the FBI and the Secret Service and the Dallas police force on where JFK was to be autopsied at. Right, the Dallas police wanted to do the autopsy there, and the FBI and the Secret Service did not want to do it there. They wanted to take it to Bethesda, his body to Bethesda Naval Hospital. Right, and there was an argument.
It was actually illegal for them to remove the body, according to Texas law, because Texas law states that if somebody is murdered, they have to be autopsied in the county or jurisdiction that they were murdered in, which would place the responsibility for the autopsy firmly in the hands of the Texas officials. But the Secret Service, the CIA, whoever, they were adamantly opposed to that, and they took the body. And that's a whole, even just how his body was transported is suspicious. You know, considering the importance of this man, he was the sitting U.S. president. You know, they just kind of throw him in a casket and fly. It doesn't make any sense, like that, just for chain of custody. And then there is a lot of discrepancies between what people saw on the body in Texas versus what they saw on the body. A lot of people think there was a body switch somehow, or that they altered the wounds somewhere between Texas and when he arrived to Bethesda. Have you heard about that?
Yes, I have. That is a running theory, but also on March 14th, 1967, JFK's body was removed from his grave in Arlington Cemetery. Right, and they moved it to another location, and no explanation or reason was ever given for it. Right?
I think it gets even more suspicious than that, because you're saying They exhumed the body in the middle of the night. No one was notified that they were doing that. You see shots of RFK at the exhumation, but then they just moved him a few feet, which, and by the way, for those that are unaware, I have a friend who grew up in the funerary business, and I called them about that issue, and I said, you know, they moved him just a few feet. They exhumed his body in the middle of the night. He wasn't aware of this. He looked at stills from that you showed in the film I sent him, and he said, this makes no sense. And I said, why? He said, because there is a reticence or a reluctance to do an exhumation. You don't want to disturb the dead out of respect. There's just this general belief that you do not exhume a body unless it's absolutely necessary. For example, some of our audience may have heard that sometimes they will exhume a body to do additional forensic work on a murder victim years after, even, or whatever. In that case, it's warranted to disturb the dead. But to disturb a dead body and then only move it a few feet over is extremely suspicious to me. Like, and there was never an explanation for why they did that, right?
Nope. And they did it like 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning. Like you said, we showed the pictures of them doing this in the documentary JFK Solving the Crime of the Century. But another strange thing that was not well known about JFK was that he was suffering from Addison's disease, which, for those that don't know what Addison's disease is, it's a autoimmune disorder that causes constant pain, right? And JFK had to wear a back and neck brace a lot of the time, yeah. Mostly in private, but there are a few pictures of him in public that we show in the documentary of him in crutches and wearing a back brace and all that, which is a very little well-known fact about JFK that we present in the film.
Yeah, interesting. And I was going to see if I could find. Oh yeah, there is some images here that I can share of the exhumation. It just, the fact that they literally moved him right next to, it's like they moved him over a few feet.
Yep.
Which never seemed to make sense to me, And then one of the other issues that I found troubling or curious to me was, here's the exhumation. One of the other issues that I thought was extremely curious is the lack of an open casket. There were people that were absolutely adamant that the casket should not be open. Yet, when you look at the autopsy photos, it doesn't appear that the body is horrendously, disfigured to the point that a talented funeral director would not be able to patch him up and do an open casket. Right?
Absolutely not. I actually have some photos of the.
And by the way, I asked my funeral director friend. He looked at the pictures and he said, "I would totally be able to do some makeup and that would totally be a candidate for an open casket. It wouldn't be difficult at all to." They have things that they use. I'm not sure if it's like wax or some sort of false flesh that they cover. Like, he's got a small bullet wound in him. And that's what it appears in the autopsy photos, that he's got a small, small bullet hole. They would just patch that, put some makeup over it, and let the family and all the grievers have an open casket to say goodbye to their fallen friend or loved one. And that there were people that were absolutely adamant that there could not be an open casket here. And that's very suspicious to me. Why would that be, right?
Yeah, I got the, there's I wish I could blow it up more, but there's the little small gunshot wound to the back of JFK's head. That's one of the autopsy photos. And hold on, let me get how do I share another one? Can I share another one?
You'd have to stop this one. I'll have to remove that and you try a new one. Yeah.
That's weird. I'm still not used to StreamYard. This is another one of the autopsy photos here, which is a shot to the back. And remember, J.D. Tippett was shot in the back of the head, and he was also shot in the back. And then this autopsy photo is the big one, the big daddy that really made me go, huh, weird. There it is.
Yeah.
Which is completely different than what the Warren Commission says and what the Zapruder film shows, right? It's unbelievable. If you watch it, just think of the Zapruder film right now. Everyone, I'm sure, has seen it that's watching this. There he's rolling through
Yeah, I
Dealey
mean,
Plaza.
from the Zapruder film, it looks like the whole side of his head gets blown completely off, or like, you know, and here there's no sign of that, and the wound is in the back of the head.
Yep.
Which is just directly contradicts the film and what we see in the film. This is why this has been such an enduring mystery, and there has been so many conspiracy theories surrounding this event, because there's too many inconsistencies and too many things that don't make sense. And, you know, I don't understand how they don't explain these things, right? Or they don't even feel the need to explain it to us. It's like, oh, single shooter, magic bullet, it's all good, it's all fine, you know. Like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's not. And really, I was back and forth making this film a lot, because I already knew what Jay believed surrounding the assassination, and I wasn't on board until I saw these. Well, I mean, I was on board, but I wasn't solidified yet, right? Because I was doing all this research, putting together all this footage, creating this film. And I was back and forth so many times. I was like, oh, crap. The CIA definitely did it. They definitely had a hand in it, researching all the weirdness surrounding the CIA and the FBI, whisking away all the evidence and all that. And then I was like, oh man, it was definitely the mob. The mob definitely had something
my
to do
three
with this.
biggest. Yeah,
my three
biggest
was prosecuting the mob. He was trying to take down organized crime. They were prosecuting organized crime. Joe Valachi, he was prosecuting Joe Valachi, one of the biggest mobsters out there. Right, he made enemies with Sidney Korshak, which was one of the biggest, one of the most famous lawyers to the mob, you know. And I'm like, okay, it's definitely the mob, you know. And I'm going back and forth almost every single day while I'm putting together this movie and putting together this film. And then I get to the section where I look at the autopsy photos, and then I'm like, oh my God, there it is. That's what's going on, and I was completely on board at that point.
The other major suspect that a lot of people discount is that, you know, Oswald spent time in the Soviet Union. He was directly connected to some KGB agents, because if you're an American citizen at the height of the Cold War, at the time he went over there, they're going to investigate you. They're going to keep tabs on you. They're going to surveil you to make sure you're not an American spy or whatever. So we've got three huge suspects. One is the CIA, one is the mob, and the other one is the Soviet Union, who did not, you know, I've often thought that if the Soviet Union was really, really and truly directly involved or put Oswald up to this or whatever, they may have known that and covered it up, because what else are you going to do? Like, what if at the time that JFK was killed, they found out that Oswald was directly sent or put up to this by the Soviet Union, who wanted to assassinate a U.S. president, and they found out that that was the case? I would think they might not tell the American people, because what are we supposed to do? Go to nuclear war with Russia over them killing our president? You're in a bad situation if that was the truth, you know? So maybe what's left in those files is smoking gun evidence or proof that the Soviets were involved.
But Russia is pretty much our enemy right now. They want to do anything to make Russia the enemy again, right? So if that's all that it is,
they would let it out.
There has to be something more in those JFK files, because it was like what you were saying in the beginning of this show. You were like, oh, well, Trump decided not to release the files, right? He said,
and he promised. That was one of his big campaign promises, that he was going to release all the JFK files. And he knew that deadline was coming up, so that the next elected president, it would be their responsibility to release it. And he promised that he was going to do that. And then he went back on his promise. Famously, he told this Judge Napolitano, if you had seen what was in those files, you could never release them too. No one could, who knows what's in those files, would ever release them. You know?
And that's exactly right. So that means that everybody that's had any kind of theory surrounding the JFK assassination is wrong, right? Because if they were right, then they would release the files, because that's something that's been accepted by the majority of the public. If all it is the CIA, everyone already thinks that the CIA was involved in the assassination. So releasing that is not going to be damaging, like Trump allegedly said to Judge Napolitano, right?
Well, one of the things that I find crazy is that it's got to be something really bad in those files, because Trump is such a blowhard. For him to keep a secret, to me, means it's got to be really something really shocking and really bad. Because, if it wasn't that bad, he would have released the files. And if it wasn't that bad, he would have shot his mouth off, even refusing to release the files. I just hope that some of these presidents, like Trump or Biden or whoever else, gets to actually see what's in those files. I hope that there'll be some deathbed confessions, and eventually we will hear. Do you think we're ever going to hear what's in those?
I think what's in those files is what's in our movie. I absolutely believe that to be true. I believe that is the reason why they're not going to release them, why they've been held kept secret for all this time. It doesn't have anything to do with advanced technology, because people already suspect that the government has had advanced technology. Everything that people has already suspected is definitely not it. It can't be it, right? It's exactly like the whole UFO thing, right? It's exactly like extraterrestrial life. People have been talking about extraterrestrial life since the freaking Roswell in 1947, right? They've been saying that the body, we have alien bodies, we have UFO craft, and then people get up there and they're like, oh, guess what? We got bodies, we got alien. That's what people have been saying for decades now. They've been saying that exact same thing. You're not seeing anything new. You're just like any other wackadoo that's coming up here. You could be replaced with anybody that's saying that we've had bodies and UFOs this entire time, right?
Yeah,
it's no different. You have no evidence. You have no proof, right?
Well, what do you think of the theories? A lot of people have put forth some pretty convincing theories to me that one of the reasons JFK may have been killed is that he intended to share the UFO files with the Soviet Union, because he was concerned that a UFO may trigger a false flag kind of situation where the Soviets might have UFOs flying around that they would think is our aircraft and start a war, or we have UFOs flying around in our airspace that we think were the Soviets, and that might cause a war. A lot of people believe that JFK may have been killed due to his intentions to share UFO secrets and the UFO file with the Soviet, leadership. What have you looked into that, and what do you think of that?
This wasn't UFOs. This had nothing to do with UFOs or advanced technology. It had everything to do with military radar systems. It was military radar systems that JFK wanted to share with the Russians. Didn't have anything to do with UFOs, didn't have anything to do with advanced technology. It had everything to do with advanced military radar systems.
Bella, this is a good point. Side note, Jackie had blood all over her dress, but it is very strange, no blood on the car. Yeah, and there are famous photos when LBJ was sworn in. She was standing right next to him, and there was blood stains on her dress. She was still wearing the bloody dress when he was sworn in, but no blood stains. No blood spatter on the back of the car right near the fatal shots.
Yep.
Yeah, apparently, well, he was the president. He got to see them and make the decision to release them or not release them. It was Mossad in Israel. There's so many theories batting around.
There
Interesting
is
that
so many theories, and that's that's the issue with doing something so high profile like this, is that the people that have researched this for a really long time, right, are just going to have a complete mental breakdown. They're not going to be able to handle it, what we present in this movie, and that's been the issue. Now, normal people that have not researched it or not looked into JFK have had a really positive reception to the film. So it's kind of backwards. You would think that the conspiracy people would really like it, but it turns out they don't like it
well,
as
it
much
goes
as the other
against
people.
it goes against some of the accepted, the Grassy Knoll shooter and this and that. It goes against these accepted theories of what people believe happened. So this is an entirely new theory of what actually happened that's not in any other film. These people have a vested interest in their books, their documentaries. They probably don't like you coming along with a completely different and new theory of what actually happened. And there is some interesting evidence that you may be right because of this situation with his mistress. Can we talk about that for a second? There's very strange. One of his mistresses was killed in a very mysterious manner right after him, right?
Yes, on October 12th of 1964, just 11 months after JFK's assassination, Mary Pinchot Meyer was murdered in the DC towpath. And Mary Pinchot Meyer was a really big socialite in Washington, DC. Two men, Henry Wiggins and William Branch, were supposedly working near the towpath on a car, hear two gunshots and a woman crying out, saying, "Someone help me." They looked across the canal and saw a man with a gun standing over a woman laying in the path. Wiggins apparently ran to call the police. Later, a man was arrested and identified as Ray Crump Jr. He denied that he had killed Mary Pinchot Meyer, and he was later acquitted of all charges, which is very interesting because Mary Pinchot Meyer was the ex-wife of the head of the CIA at that time, Cord Meyer, right? So the ex-wife of the head of the CIA was one of JFK's head mistresses,
Main
right?
mistress, many say. Yeah.
Main daddy. She was the main girl, right? Which is little well known.
Yeah,
Uh,
pretty girl too. Pretty girl.
and she was murdered in broad daylight. No one was ever convicted of this, right? So something's not adding up in that scenario as well. How can the ex-wife of the head of the CIA be murdered in broad daylight and no one ever be convicted?
Yeah,
Weird.
and then there is also the issue that you've got to find it suspicious. All of the there's a book called The Hit List. It's an in-depth investigation into mysterious deaths of witnesses to the JFK assassination. Some people may not be aware, but there was a lot of mysterious deaths right after JFK's assassination. That's very suspicious, don't you think, Ryder? All these eyewitnesses just suddenly started dying from mysterious circumstances, car accidents, slips and falls off a bridge. There's all these weird things that happen.
Yeah, it is really weird. And then also RFK later also being shot in the side of the head and killed as well. And then you have what's her name? A really big singer that was apparently having an affair with JFK as well. Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, Marilyn
as
Monroe,
well.
yeah.
Her death is really suspicious. And then you have the death of JFK Jr. as well, which no one ever found a body of JFK Jr. either. So there's a lot of strange scenarios, but the one that we concentrate the most on is Mary Pinchot Meyer. Because the circumstances around her death are very strange. She was reported to have been shot several times, yet there wasn't any blood at the scene. Really, really strange things. The ambulances weren't called in to her death. It was just the coroner basically and the police. So how did they know that she was actually dead? So there's a lot of strange circumstances surrounding her death for sure. And we show all of her photos of her death there, no blood. It's really, it's super interesting. And that's a little
Yeah, and there was
not a
also,
well-known one. A lot of people, they talk about.
yeah, I hadn't heard very much about that before, but there was also a little more famously is the mysterious death of the reporter Dorothy Kilgallen, who was a crack investigative reporter. She did an 18-month investigation of the Dallas tragedies, which included she was the only reporter to interview Jack Ruby at the time of his trial. No one else got an interview with Jack Ruby, and she suffered a very mysterious death right after that as well. So there's all these people directly connected that may have gotten too close to the truth and were perhaps dealt with. And I don't trust the CIA because one of their big things is assassinations. And we have this tragic death of an American president, and suddenly all these people are dying that were eyewitnesses or were investigating intently what happened. Suddenly they turn up dead. That's very suspicious to me.
Yeah, and we have the video of Jack Ruby saying that people will never know his motivations. It's in the film JFK, and that the people that were orchestrating this was in very high places, right? And then Jack Ruby dies of cancer a couple of years later in jail, and we never figure out what was going on there either. And he was reportedly out of his mind. I think that he got a good visit from Sidney Gottlieb, which was running the MK Ultra programs. At the end there, he was basically out of his mind, saying that the goblins made him do it, that talking about fairies and all this crazy stuff, like directly out of his mind, which is synonymous with being drugged in the MK Ultra programs. So.
Yeah, and there's another suspicious part of the entire event. George Bush Sr., who was in Dallas that day, couldn't remember where he was when JFK was killed. But later, it was found out that he was in Dallas on that very same day, and he was CIA.
Yep.
And that has always been very suspicious to me because I can remember where I was the day that Ronald Reagan got shot. I was a little kid, but I could still remember where I was, and he wasn't even killed. He was just, it was attempted murder. And I remember because it was all over the news for weeks, but somehow George Bush can't remember. Mr. CIA couldn't remember where he was when everybody who was alive at the time remembers where they were when they heard that JFK was shot. He didn't know. He couldn't tell you. And he was in Dallas that day. A lot of people think that the Bush family was somewhat connected to this event. Have you ever looked into that?
I mean, people know where they were when Michael Jackson died. If they can remember where they were when Michael Jackson died, I'm sure they can remember where they were if they were alive around the time that JFK, the president of the United States, was also assassinated as well.
Mark Toronto says he was seen in front of the book depository. He was seen in front of that. Yeah, I don't know if that's true, but if it is, that's pretty interesting, right? Yeah, Hillary's got her own kill list going. That's a conspiracy for another. The Hillary kill list. I love the memes when somebody around them dies, like, oh, they knew too much,
Yeah.
So you think, you have this pretty shocking theory in this book, in the documentary. I think you should make it a book too. And you're telling me that the reaction of some of the conspiracy people has not been very positive?
It has not. It has not. And I mean, I can see why. I can.
Very controversial. The theories presented in this film are very controversial.
And that's the problem too, Steve, is that people in the community are always saying, we want the truth, give us the truth, and nothing but the truth and all the truth. But really what they want is their own preconceived thoughts, ideas, and theories regurgitated directly back to them, right? And that's not what this documentary is. That's not what this film is about. It is a brand new film. It is different than what anybody has ever thought of before, and it's a very healing film, I think, as well. It gives you a different thought and a different uh, aspect to exactly what happened that day. And a lot of people, some people, they don't want to hear it, right? Are you frozen? Did we freeze up?
Yeah, we did freeze up. Just as you were talking about the truth, I think the CIA got us.
Goblins got us.
You're getting too close to the truth about that stuff, right? Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know why. I have nothing open. I shut down everything else that I just had, though. So I don't know.
I don't have anything open either. And I got a brand new computer too, so I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I have a computer that's plenty good to do this. So the film, for those who want to dig deeper into this new sort of conspiracy theory around JFK, the film is called JFK X, Solving the Crime of the Century. And I wrote that a new documentary sheds new light on a 60-year-old mystery. You really are committed that you think you got to the truth here?
I think so. I think that we examine and we prove and we show evidence of exactly what happened that day, right? And it's important for people to know that this isn't some other regurgitation, right? It's not another regurgitation.
Yeah, that's why I liked it, because I've watched every JFK documentary, and about halfway through some of them, I go, oh, I've seen all of this information before. And I kind of feel like I'm wasting my time. In this one, there was a lot of new things that I've never seen or even thought about. And I like it when I hate to say this, but I like it when I miss something and somebody else catches it and shows it to me so that I can examine that and think about that aspect that I may have missed before and not really gotten to, right?
Yeah, if you're basing the film off of what me and Steve have talked about in this discussion here, then you just need to watch the film, right?
Yeah, and by the way, I liked it enough that what I'm going to do is we're going to pick 5 people randomly from the live chat, and I will PayPal them the $2. This film only costs $2 on Amazon. These guys aren't getting rich here trying to, they're not trying to cash in here. So we will pick 5 people randomly. You got to have a PayPal or some method so that I can send you the $2. I'd be happy to do that for 5 of our members here, 5 of our channel members. So if you're a channel or anybody, just put your hand up. The first people that say me, just put me in caps. And we'll put you on a list. I'm going to gift this film to 5 of our audience members.
Thanks so much, Steve. I appreciate you doing that. And, it's a really healing film as well, right? It's, I personally believe, and it's healing from that trauma that was inflicted on the world almost 60 years ago, right? And again, it's unlike anything you've ever heard before. It explains everything that we've talked about here today in much greater detail. And I really believe that what we have in this movie is what is in those JFK files and why they're so important and why they can't be released. I mean, that's pretty much what we open this film with, is why hasn't the government released all those JFK files, and why did Biden basically permanently seal them? He permanently classified them. They're probably never going to be released, right? And what is so important in there that they can't be released? They can't just be that the CIA was involved. People already think that. It can't just be because it's about some kind of advanced technology. People already assume and think and believe that the government has highly advanced technology. It has to be something more. It has to be something so shocking that it won't, that they can't release it to the American public. And I think that we have that in this film, and I would highly recommend it if people would check it out and watch it. It's only $1.99 on Amazon Prime, and it's only $4.99 to buy it. and we put a lot of work and a lot of energy and a lot of time. It kind of went under the radar for a little bit. We made this film very quickly, really fast. It only took us 88 days from the time that Jay wrote it to the point that we started it, did all the filming, got all the footage together until it was up
I
on
remember
Amazon
you
Prime.
telling me that you were starting on this, and I was shocked that you were done it already. So you guys are really like all chips in, like let's really hit it hard and get it. And we have our 5. Oh, wait a minute. No, we have 4. A lot of people are kindly saying, Ryder, no, thank you. I'll pay for it myself. So, oh yeah, we have our 5. So we have S23, we have Bella, we have Egyptian Princess, Mr. Ian, and Patty Wilhelm. You guys have won a free viewing of the film. Just be sure to email me at truthseekershow@gmail.com. Please include your PayPal Pay-to address, and I'm going to send you a $250. That'll cover the PayPal transfer fee too. And so you get to watch the film for free. Thank you for being a member, or thank you for being audience members here. And I'm happy to, and I also like to support independent filmmakers. So that's my little contribution to you. I got to see it free, and I want to thank you for that. He sent me a preview, a screening copy. I felt important, Ryder. Like I get a screening copy before anybody sees this. That's cool. So we thank you very much for including me. And the link to Amazon to watch the film is in the description of the video. Also, be sure to subscribe to Ryder Lee's YouTube channel. That's also in the description. You're doing you're going to be doing a lot more live stuff and onto new platforms as well, right?
Yeah, I'm doing a whole series on UFO cults. You're covering the new modern day UFO cults, and I'm covering the old school UFO cults because I think it's important to realize and figure out where a lot of these ideas and theories and of extraterrestrial visitations all come from, right? And I have done 3 so far, and my next one will be live.
I got to catch up. I love that. I love the old contactee movements. I love cult stuff, and I love UFOs. So shows on doing shows on UFO cults. We've covered some of that older stuff.
Yeah, the Seekers cult here. The Seekers cult with yep. This is the Seekers cult. They started in 1954, and their first claims was that the United States was going to be destroyed by a natural disaster, and these guardian extraterrestrial ships were going to come and save them from the natural disaster. And then
sounds familiar.
Very familiar, right? That's the reason that I'm doing all this, right? Is to show people where all this nonsense
and
comes
history,
from.
Ryder, you know this. I really believe that history is our greatest teacher sometimes. We did that whole series on UFO whistleblowers just to show people how many people have come before this latest guy to say, I'm a UFO whistleblower and I've got all this evidence. And then they never quite come through with the evidence. And we covered 14 of them, I think. So we covered 14 whistleblowers. They all have the same MO, profit, kick the can. The evidence is coming, and then we never get to it. And there's been some stunning new revelations about Mr. Grush. He is the chief operating officer of an organization founded by Gary Nolan. And Christopher Mellon is also part of that organization. So he's directly
is that where he's getting all of his information from? These other UFO grifters?
Yes, that's what it is. We've already directly connected him to Eric Davis, Lou Elizondo, Gary Nolan, and Christopher Mellon. And these are all the people, many of them were involved in the TTSA techno scam. You know, they collected millions of dollars from the UFO community, never delivered anything. I'm just urging people to be very cautious about placing their faith in a so-called. The other issue to me is a whistleblower breaks NDAs, breaks security oaths, and brings a huge amount of evidence to support their claims. This guy's not a whistleblower to me. He's a storyteller. He has no evidence so far. None.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier. These people, it could be anybody up there. It doesn't need to be Koresh or any of those. It could just be you can grab someone randomly off the street. If they don't have any evidence, they don't have any evidence, and there's zero evidence for any of this stuff, right?
Oh, you would love
And
it. Yesterday we did. I meant to message you to get those dance videos of James Rink, because yesterday we did our wackadoo of the week. I don't know if you saw this guy. He went on James Rink's show and he said that Star Trek is real and that he was involved in a mission that movie The Voyage Home was based on. But they went and they put Nessie and another Nessie like offspring creature in the Enterprise, and the Enterprise is real, and Spock is real, and he bangs Spock's niece, and James Rink and his friend are just sitting there listening to this guy. And then the best part was that he said he went on that mission in 1997, and that movie came out in the 80s. So how the hell did they base the movie? And then he goes, well, it's time travel, so anything's possible, you know.
see, that's the thing. It's just more excuses after more excuses to cover up their plot holes in their stories, right? And that's what this guy right here, Leon Fetzinger, infiltrated the Seekers UFO cult in 1954 and actually developed the term cognitive dissonance. People don't even know that the term cognitive dissonance came from
a
the
UFO cult.
the study of a freaking UFO cult.
Yeah, I think that's.
And now really everyone's throwing that around the community for the people that don't know anything about anything when it was really used for them.
Richard E.S., did Edward Snowden follow a legal process and ignore divulging classified information? No, he dropped the information that he had, and then he suffered the consequences. And by the way, the DOD cleared David Grush to talk about alien bodies and UFO crash retrievals. Therefore, the DOD already said that alien bodies and crash retrievals are not classified. So why can't he drop the evidence that he has? It's all excuses. And this guy
he can only talk about it behind closed doors, dude.
Yeah. This guy is in bed with all the UFO grifters that have been grifting here for years. But you know, people will believe what they want to believe. I know what I believe. I believe that this is going to be a big nothing burger. We're going to find out that he got his information from Lou Elizondo, Gary Nolan, Christopher Mellon, and Eric Davis, Kit Green, and all these other UFO grifters. And by the way, he already gave 11 hours of testimony in a skiff. And then the congressional aides in on the 4 hours of the testimony went back to the Congress people and said he was not a credible witness. That will tell you about the quality of his evidence. If he testified for 4 hours and had good evidence, the congressional staffers would not go back to members of Congress and say he's not a reliable witness. They would go back to members of Congress and say he's got excellent evidence. They didn't do that. They said he's not a reliable witness, probably because the information that he has is all garbage from the internet that's been out there for years and never proven to be factually correct or real, you know?
Yep, it's exactly like the what was that one congressman from Canada or whatever that said that all
the
these
defense minister,
the defense minister,
yeah, he was getting all his information from Philip Corso's book, you know? Come on.
Yeah, it's just a huge regurgitation. And then there was another person that was in a different country, maybe, I don't think it was Iran, somewhere in a different country that said that there was multiple extraterrestrial races that were visiting the planets. And it turns out that he got it from his daughter, which got it from the internet from Laura Eisenhower on YouTube.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite big bluffs, you know? Oh, former head of Israel Space Ministries.
That's what it was, Israel.
Yeah. Yeah, and he literally, they misquoted him because in the original, somebody had a transcript of the original conversation. He said, my daughter heard on the internet from Laura Eisenhower, who's the granddaughter or great-granddaughter of Ike, that we have been visited by aliens and there was a treaty and all, you know, he just repeated what his granddaughter told him, but he wasn't saying that he believed that. He was saying that he heard things from his granddaughter who heard them from Laura Eisenhower. So it's this game of telephone like children play. By the time you get to the third person, the story's all screwed up, you know?
Yeah, it's all regurgitated nonsense. I mean, this UFO cult, Raelianism, the Raelian cult. Have you ever looked into them? They claim that, and this started in 1974.
Cloned people. They claim they cloned humans and all this stuff. They can't prove any of it.
Yeah, they claim that they cloned this a baby, clonade the head of the cult, Rael from that started the cult in 1974, started this company called Clonade in Canada. They claim that they can clone human beings, and that's how the Elohim that physically came down the earth to visit with him and take them back to their home world, to their home planet. And he was offered many robot sex slaves to have sex with on their intergalactic Elohim ship. And the way that they're
It's wild. The Raelian cult is wild.
it's
It gets really
it's a
wild.
huge
Yeah.
sex cult, but they then claimed that.
Oh, thanks, World in Chaos, and thank you for being a member. I was a bit worried because, to be quite honest, anytime we veer off of UFOs here, it looks like we have half our audience. But tonight we had great attendance. I was surprised. So thank you all for being here. We really appreciate all of you being here.
We're wrapping up with the UFOs here, so don't worry, folks. We're getting into the UFOs.
Yeah, well, you know, here's the thing, Ryder. I never intended to only cover UFOs. It just kind of went there because that's one of my major interests, but not my, you know, originally when I started this show, you can look back at my early shows. We covered like black-eyed children and Bigfoot and Hairy Man of Alaska stories and demons, poltergeist stories, haunting stories, anything strange or unusual or paranormal. And then we just kind of got stuck in this, you know, UFO thing for quite a while. But I'm really getting disgusted. Like I want to see evidence, or I don't want to talk about more claims or more people saying things. People saying things is worthless to me. You know, I'm at the point where like, don't tell me, show me. Show me what you got.
And that's the problem, is this whole thing is just based on belief and faith and stories and people's regurgitation and propping up other people and talking about nonsense that has no proof and evidence and facts. I've been blocked by so many people just in the last couple of weeks because of this huge UFO hearing, right, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter.
You made a mistake. You told people what you really think. You should see my inbox, Ryder Lee. They're not happy with me because I called it from the very beginning. As soon as this happened, and all of my predictions have been right, I said he's going to kick the can. He's going to wait for a documentary before he says anything else. We proved that he had a documentary deal in place May 15th before he ever became a public figure, you know? So it's a money grab, and he says he wants to be a thought leader on this subject. And my concern is I don't want to wait years before his story unravels and we find out where he's getting this so-called, you know, evidence from. You know, so far he's talking about a hoax UFO crash case from Italy. I think it's a hoax. And he got that from Elizondo. Then he's talking about stuff to do with the materials that he got from Gary Nolan. So, you know, there's a reason why he won't divulge who he's getting his information from, because I think if he does, we'll know that it's all things we've heard before. It's nothing new. Yeah,
it literally all comes from, I personally believe, these UFO cults. I mean, that's exactly what they do. The ufology has become a religion, right? And that's what all of the UFO cults that I've studied so far and done shows on has always kicked the can down the road. Every single time.
Chase the carrot, right?
They're like, oh, well, no, the UFOs are going to land in December of 1954, December 21st, 1954. That date comes and goes. They're like, oh, no, it'll be Christmas Eve of 1954. It'll be in a few days. And then that date comes and goes, and it doesn't happen. And then they're like, oh, man, we've been such good cult members and cult leaders. The destruction of the world no longer has to happen. The U.S. doesn't have to be destroyed anymore. The Elohim are now not coming. They're not landing. But see what these people are doing now, which is actually really genius. Like Rael from the Raelian cult, which is still a UFO cult. He's still alive.
He's still alive. He's still going. Yeah, he's making huge amounts of money too. And you know what's weird? I don't know if you saw that documentary on him, but he has a huge amount of Asian followers that like go and
he loves Asian women.
They give up their whole lives and they go and they give him all their money and they live in poverty to help him with this cause. And like, that's a wild story. you get a little further along, you got to come and give us an update, and maybe we'll do like a section on each of them. I would love that because I love cults and I love UFOs.
But really
some
quick,
of them are harmless though. There's that one that was run by that couple out in California. I always forget the name of it, but she was like
a theorist society.
Yeah, she was this wild lady with the big honeydew hair.
Oh, I'm getting ready to cover them next week. That's that
one was. They're harmless. They're harmless whacking.
Unarius Academy.
Unarius cult. Yeah, they bought some land and they were building a UFO landing strip for the aliens to come down, and that's still going even after her death. There's like a new leader.
Even after they predicted in 2001 that the UFO ships were going to land. It's still a thing.
And they never come, yeah.
And they never come. Yeah. But really quick, this Rael from the Raelian cult has done something really impressive, right? What he did is he made the date so far in the future, Steve, that by the time the date comes around, he's going to be dead. He's no longer going to be with us, right? And that's the new grift. See, the new grift is to make the date so far in the future, but by the time it actually happens, people have either forgotten, they don't care, or the person that made the prediction is dead, or things are completely different, right? Or they've forgotten about the event, right? So that's what people are going to start doing now. And we've kind of already seen that. People are making the date so far in the future that by the time it happens, no one cares. It doesn't matter anymore. People have forgotten or they're dead, right? And that's the way that he was smart about that. He did that back in 1974 because I think that he knows that all of his stuff is nonsense, made up, wackadoo. New age stuff, and that's another thing that they do as well. Is they start out one way. They start out with a physical ascension, right? Like Bo from the Heaven's Gate cult, right? He started out that the UFOs were physically going to come and pick them up, right? And then after his wife Bonnie Nettles dies of brain cancer in 1985, excuse me, sorry, he switches his theology and his belief systems, that now it's a spiritual ascension. Now it's a consciousness ascension. And then everyone knows what happened with Heaven's Gate, right? So it's a constant switcheroo. That's what I'm calling it now. It's a switcheroo. It's a rebranding. If things aren't working out,
he based all that nonsense. He based all that nonsense on remote viewer Courtney Brown, who remote viewed a spaceship behind the Hale-Bopp comet.
Yep.
And that guy's still around grifting like you wouldn't believe. That guy is a huge grifter, Courtney Brown.
I'm pretty sure Whitley Strieber has something to do with that as well, and as well as George Norrie, I believe as well.
Yeah, because they platformed this Courtney Brown who was pushing that there was a UFO or an alien spaceship behind the comet and coming along with the comet. And you're right, it starts off physical and then it turns into a spiritual thing because they realize they can't pull off the physical version of it.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we want to thank you for joining us. We want to remind everybody that the link to the film and both the trailer and to purchase the film on Amazon, it's only a couple of bucks. Please do support independent filmmakers. I'm trying to become one myself. So, I want people to support when people do that. It takes an incredible amount of time, energy, passion, and dedication to create a film. Jay Weiner and Ryder Lee, I think, did an admirable job here. So please do support them.
Even if you don't like the what's presented in the film, please respect the time and the effort and the artistry that went into making the movie, right? That's like, I was the editor and the director of the film, and Jay was the writer and the producer, right? Like, even if you don't like,
I'm kind of getting pissed off though, because it seems like everybody around me is getting these film deals, and Ryder just got my gig. I know Jay could ask me. I'm an editor. Like, nobody asks me. But it's all right.
It was spontaneous.
Happy for your success. I don't know if you know, but like Spooky got a film deal. Spooky got a big film deal. and
it's
you
not
know,
really a film deal. It's all independent. We don't
and
have
then
anybody backing us. We're just doing it all on our own. It's just
who
me
else?
and
And then
Jay.
somebody else got a deal with Bob Kiviat of the producer of Unsolved Mysteries and the Alien Autopsy film. He got a deal making films with that guy, and I knew that guy too. I'm like, I feel like that kid that didn't get invited to the party, you know. But maybe in the future. I am happy for your success. I'm just teasing you.
Yeah, thanks, brother.
I think I look forward to see the other films that you guys are going to make. I would certainly welcome you back for those, and would like to see what you do next. Right?
Thanks so much, brother. Appreciate your time. Anybody that's interested, and thanks for purchasing that for your viewers. I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me.
People we're gifting the film to. So there's no excuse for some of you. We have the list here, and that is Egyptian Princess S23, Bella, Mr. Ian, and Patty M. Wilhelm. They're the first person to put their hands up in the live chat and say me. So you guys get a free copy of the film, rental of the film. Just email me with your PayPal address to truthseekershow@gmail.com. And the rest of you, it's only a couple bucks. The film link is in the description of the video. We appreciate you coming here to promote your film, Ryder.
Thanks so much, Steve. Appreciate you a lot. Appreciate your audience a lot. And thank you. Thank you, everyone. And see you next time. I need to bring you on my show, my friend. I've been on here like a couple of times in a row. I need to bring you on the other end.
Yeah, this is why I hate having show hosts as guests, because then I got to reciprocate. And doing a show, you're so busy. You're like, oh, all right, I'll do it. Yeah. No, but I have been doing a few more interviews outside of here. I'm trying to promote my channel more. And yeah, I'd be happy to do it. Just give me a time and date, and we'll try to make it happen.
Thanks so much. JFK X on Amazon Prime, Raised by Giants on YouTube. Got my UFO Doomsday Cult video live tomorrow at 2 p.m. EST. Thank you, guys.
All right, I'll be in your live chat. Have a good night. All right, friends. There we have it. Friend of the show, Ryder Lee. Good for him. He's got a film on Amazon. I'm going to try to figure out how to have a film on Amazon soon. And we wish him the best of success with all of his future endeavors. And here, he touched on this, but I'm going to say it too. Even if you totally disagree with the major theory that they're putting forth in this film, there's a lot of information that I've never seen before about the JFK assassination. So even if you disagree with the major conspiracy theory that they're putting forth here, I think there is a good deal of new evidence that I haven't read in other books or seen in other documentaries. And I love it when I'm not disappointed that it's another rehash of something I've already seen. So I have a bit more time to share with you, but now is a good time to remind you that we are a viewer-supported show, and we exist through the kindness, generosity, and support of all of you. We've been talking about this monetization issue. For those unaware, for one reason or another, our videos are now getting limited to no ads before the broadcast is even finished. And this one is no different. And they keep saying that we have limited to no ads due to ad suitability. I'm going to show you here. And then what happens is I will request the review. And once I've requested the review, it will take them 4 or 5 days to review this broadcast. And they always come back and say, oh, it is suitable for ads. We made a mistake. But by that time, all the views are gone. And here we see this one. I'm not even going to bother with that one. That was about the wackadoo. This one's being reviewed. This one's being reviewed. This one's being reviewed. But what you notice is after they review them, they turn it back on. But by the time they turn it back on, 5 days have passed. And if any of you understand, when you do a live show, all the views come in the first day or two of the video being broadcast. We get a few, you'll still get a few views on older broadcasts, but most of the views all come in the first day or two of the video being broadcast. So we lose all of that ad revenue. That's why I want to thank each and every one of you who are a YouTube channel member or a Patreon supporter, or throw a couple bucks in our hat, because by doing that, you help us offset the money that we're getting. I don't want to say anything negative about our hosts here, so I won't. It's enough to say that because of this situation, we're losing, could be thousands of dollars over the course of 6 months or a year in ad revenue. And we thank each and every one of you that are supporting us through our other income streams, because that means I'm not going to really worry too much about it. And by the way, I only show this just to tell you how important your support is to us. We really do appreciate it. Being a viewer-supported show, we have the PBS model. I've always liked the PBS model. We put forth good content, and we hope that if people like it, they like it enough to throw a couple bucks in our hat. The show is not over. I'm going to be back and taking comments and questions from the live chat. Don't go anywhere, but here's our announcer to let us know how you can support us as well.
Truthseekers is a viewer-supported show. Wonderful people like you who enjoy this show send pledges in the form of super chats, super stickers, super thanks, PayPal, or Cash App. Instructions for how to help are in the description. You can also join our Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month you can get extra content. Patreon supporters get a backstage pass, early access to all our production videos before they are distributed publicly, Stephen Campion's music, private writings, a monthly show journal, and more. You can also become a YouTube channel member for $5 a month. A YouTube membership includes all of the Patreon benefits, plus a special members badge, priority reply to video comments, and the live chat, plus a monthly members-only video. We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, for supporting Truthseekers. Thank you for your generosity and support. Truthseekers is a viewer-supported show. Now there's a great way to support these broadcasts and show your support. Please be sure and check out our merchandise store. Links to our 2 merchandise online stores are in the links to this video or podcast. The Amazon storefront ships super quickly in the United States, Great Britain, and many more places. Amazon may not ship to your country or location. If that's the case, hit our second merchandise link in the description and visit our Redbubble storefront. Merchandise from our Redbubble storefront ships worldwide, but may take longer than Amazon. We've got a great deal of super high quality merchandise for you to choose from, including t-shirts, phone cases, sweatshirts, and even pillows. The feedback from our products have been overwhelmingly great. Quality products and fast shipping. People all over the world are buying some merchandise and showing their support of the show. Praise the cash! Praise the cash! Praise the cash! We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, who are buying some merchandise and helping us to continue this journey. Thanks for being here. This is Truthseekers with your host, Stephen Campion. Please rate, like and comment on our videos or podcasts. If you are listening to an audio podcast, please rate us 5 stars to help us rise in the search rankings. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, comment and subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to an audio podcast, we love and appreciate you listeners, but you are missing the live tapings. All our shows are recorded live with video feed. We'd love you to come be a part of our live broadcasts and tapings for the podcast. Head on over to YouTube, click the search tool, the little magnifying glass, put Truthseekers, one word in the search bar, and hit enter. You'll see a strange and mysterious guy with sunglasses. That means you found the channel. Go there, smash the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to receive up-to-date info on our YouTube channel. We welcome you to be a part of our live taping and our chat room during the live broadcasts. Seek the truth. Speak the truth. This is Truthseekers. Truthseekers.
All right, friends, so we're back. We'll take some comments and questions from the live chat. Please put them in all capital letters. Amy Collins encouraging people to stick around. Digital Vortex is here and says, interesting show. Digital Vortex is another person that's making independent films that we'd like to have as a guest here. I think you sent me a message. If you did, send me one more. I'm sorry. I got to find it. Mr. Digital Vortex has this. It's on my watch list for this weekend. He has this really great historical breakdown of what was called the aviary. Before there was the TTSA techno scam crew, the whole TTSA fake disclosure thing. There was another group that was pushing for so-called UFO or alien disclosure called the aviary, and many famous people, once famous people, researchers like Bill Moore were a part of it. Richard Doty was a part of it, and it was called the aviary, and they were all given like bird names like Falcon, and it was this, I swear UFO people love to pretend they're secret agents, and it was kind of like that. But I remember, and I was telling him that back in the day there was these BBS message groups through something called FidoNet, ancient pre-internet technology that would send these information packets by telephone between all these BBSs in different cities, and eventually the network would populate with what everybody was sharing, and there was text files that you could get, just a text file with UFO stories and UFO information, a lot of stuff about Bob Lazar. And I followed this aviary story incredibly intensely. And it sort of culminated with that UFOs Live, where they had, you remember that famous thing where somebody said that the aliens that were guests at Area 51 like strawberry ice cream? It was so weird. Anyway, he has an excellent film about that. I'm going to watch it, and then hopefully we'll bring him here to talk about the film and the historical look at the UFO community that he gave. I think history's our greatest teacher, and I'm really glad that he made that. Well, I was glad, and then I was a little pissed because that was on I have a board of future show. We could still do a show on the aviary. In fact, we'll do it with him. On my board is the story of the aviary. It's over there in the corner. When every once in a while I think about stories to bring our audience here, the story of the aviary and the UFOs Live story was on my list, right? And Thin Lizzie Borden talked about covering older cases with Steve. Yeah, we'll be bringing you back. I got a lot of good feedback. Everybody was like, oh, you need to bring her back. You got a lot of thirsty men in the audience. Our audience is 85% men. Every time we have a female guest, they're like, you need to have her again. And I'm sure she'll be back. B. Baker says BBSs were cool. Do you know, B. Baker, that I ran when I was like 12 and 13 years old? I ran a BBS out of my bedroom, and I knew my father would not give me permission to have my own phone line, so I just did it, and I got my mom to, to like sign off on it because she was home all day. I went to school, and the telephone guys came, and they put an extra phone line right up to my bedroom, through my bedroom window and the bedroom wall, I should say. And then my BBS started with one phone line, and then it went to 2, then it went to 4, then it went to 8, then it went to 12. And my father had no idea that I had like 12 phone lines in my bedroom. And you needed all those phone lines because to have multiple users on the system at the same time, you needed one phone line for each person. Otherwise, they would get a busy signal. And the phone would ring in what was called a hunt sequence. So there was one main number. You had phone numbers for every one of those 12 phone lines, but we put them in a hunt sequence, which means the first number rings. And if that's busy, it goes to the next one. If that's busy, it goes to the next one. So anyway, I had a huge BBS. I had, and then my father he got the electric bill one month when we went to 12 phone lines because we had to have 12 computers in a network in order to have 12 people on the system at once. And he lost his mind when he got the electric bill. And I was getting, I would give people a membership. So you could call the system for free for 30 minutes. But in order to really use the system to its full potential, we had a download area and message forums and online games. You could go on my BBS and play chess and Othello and Connect 4 with people all over the country. But in order to really use the system, you needed more than the 30 minutes. So what would happen is, if you were a free user, you could stay on for 30 minutes and then the system would kick you off and then you couldn't come back on for 24 hours. So I came up with a membership thing where people would just send me $3 in the mail. It was $3 a month, and then they had unlimited time. And I was making good money as a kid, just selling access to this massive computer system that I built. And I got to tell you that someday I'm going to make a film about BBSs because it was one of the greatest times of my life. I learned about computer networking. I learned computer programming to make this system work. I programmed my own chat rooms so that people could chat interactively with all the other users and instant message each other. It was an incredible time that I still think of it fondly. And interestingly, some of the friends that I made in BBS land, B. Baker, are still my friends today. In fact, I just talked to one, my friend Joe, he's like a retro computer guy, and he has like this massive collection of old Commodore 64s and all this stuff. And Mr. Ian says MUD was great. We had access to a MUD on my system. Yeah, BBSs were awesome. And for those unaware, that was sort of like the text version before the internet, and you needed a phone line and a modem and ANSI graphics. I'm going to show you ANSI graphics. Oh, actually, I wonder if I could do it live right now. I think I can. Let me see if I can do it. I think I can telnet and show you what a BBS looks like. Oh, no, it won't. Windows 10 doesn't let you telnet. Damn it. Stupid. I was going to be able to show you. Oh, wait a minute. I could still show you, I think. Let me see. If I could do it through the web, I might be able to do it through the web. Oh, yeah. Here we go. So I'm going to show you. I still have a friend that runs a BBS. Believe it or not, people are still using them. And thank you, Eventide. Yes, we played Legend of the Red Dragon and Usurper, and of course Solar Realms Elite, Baron Realms Elite, and Trade Wars 2002. I love that stuff, and I'm still on Eventide. I'm still on. I'm going to show you guys. This is a bit of technology history. This is an excellent BBS, and this is what the graphics look like. This was called ANSI graphics. I'm going to see if I can, yeah, and this is what a BBS looked like, and it would be full screen. Let me see if I still have. Let me see if I still have a password. I still have an account. Yes, I still have an account. This is what a BBS would look like, but it would be full screen. And look how incredible some of the people really put all this time into the artwork that they put on their BBS. I was one of those people. And here, so here you can see this is a menu. This is a BBS called Distortion, which a friend of mine runs. It's still up. You can leave a note to the sysop. You can page the sysop. There's online games. Here's the doors menu. And here's the games that you can play. We have Mystic Relay Track, Darkness, Door Party, Lord, Legends of the Red Dragon 2 is on here. Legend of the Red Dragon 1, a game called Darkness. Interestingly, this is what came before the internet. So if you didn't know what nerds were doing before the internet, we were calling. And also interesting is you could really only call the BBSs or connect to the BBSs that were in your local area, because there was a time when if you called another city, you had to pay long distance charges and your phone bill would be outrageous. So you only called areas in your local area code. But now through Telnet, people are able to, and we can see what the last callers were here. People were, so this guy's calling from New Hampshire. I'm calling from Philadelphia. It still says I haven't updated my where I'm calling from. But anyway, and then we can go to files. There's file sections. This is what came before the internet. And let me see my stats. Wow, I haven't been on here since 2021, it says. Yeah, a little behind on BBSing, I guess. I do have some that I still call that friends run, but I haven't been on here since 2021. It's interesting that my account is still there. And then there's the rumors menu. We don't want to add a rumor. Yeah, the message menu where this is where people would post things. There was message boards here, and there would be one on UFOs in these. See, he's a member of all these ArcaNet, ZeroNet, and they bounce data packets back and forth. But this is what we did before the internet. It seems pretty primitive by today's standards, but still interesting. Oh, let me see. Oh, no, wait. I didn't want that. Doors menu. I'll show you these incredible online games. Enter the Realm of the Dragon. Yeah. Text adventure games, right? Oh, wait, you can't use Cambian. Oh, well, let me do that. What would you like to use as an alias? Watch, it's not going to work now. And it threw me out. I don't know why it wouldn't let me pick an alias. All right, well, whatever. Maybe Lord 2 will let me play that. I don't know. Play the game. Boy, I'll just say Gandalf. Oh, somebody's already got Gandalf. And this was the game. Gandalf has entered the realm. Yeah, we're going to quit. I'm not going to. Yeah, incredible high resolution graphics we used to have on BBSs. I wonder if there's anybody in the chat room. Well, yeah, there is. This is an inner BBS chat. Oh. Well, I don't see anybody else in there. So, yeah. We're going to quit. Oh. Is it /Q? Yeah. So, this was what we did This is a trip down memory lane for what nerds did before I applied as a co-sysop, and JP told me to go F myself. Great. So that's what we did before the internet. It was a fun time. Eventtide says this is feeling very meta. Yeah, Mr. Ree says how far we have come. Kill thief with nasty knife. Yeah. Email file sizes. Yeah. Back then. Yeah. You could only send somebody a file if it was 200K or less. Oh, yes. How far we're going, right? Mr. Ian says, I realize the audience may see a passionately vocal version of Steve, but this is the Steve I know. He's a cool guy. Well, BBSs were fun. And I would love, you know what, that's the funny thing, is that when you're having the time of your life, and it's really one of the greatest times in your life, you don't realize it. Like BBSs to me were one of the greatest time in my life. And if I could trade the internet and just have BBSs again, I probably would. I liked BBSs, and BBSs were more local. And BBSs, including mine, we would have something called get-togethers. So all the people that you chat with on the BBS and get to know and play games with and talk to and do the message forums with, all those people that you got to interact with in this artificially created digital world, if you will, we would have get-togethers at local parks and things and barbecues, and everybody would come, and you would meet the people that you're chatting to. Now with the internet, you don't know who you're chatting with. You get catfished. You don't really get to really meet many of the people because you could be chatting with people from all over the world. But back then it was a much more local experience. And then we would have swap meets and things. So you brought all your computer parts to the swap meet, and I got a motherboard and you need a video card, or I need a sound card, and everybody would swap parts. And then we would also have fix-up meetups, which means if your computer is busted or you have a busted computer, you would bring it. And all us nerds would bring our soldering iron, and somebody would buy some alcohol, and there'd be some green there usually. And we would all toke up and drink up and hang out. It was a great time. And interestingly, when I started making music, my music was first distributed in what was called mod format or XM format, all over BBSs all over the world. And this is pre-internet. I couldn't believe I was getting emails from like people in the Netherlands were talking about some of my mixes and things. It was just an incredible time. I loved BBSs mostly because they were a little bit more local. And I met probably one of my first really serious girlfriends I met on a BBS. This is way back in the day. And then we had most of the women on BBSs weren't very I don't want to be insulting. But this girl I had talked to for like a year, and really got to know her on the internet. And then eventually I found out that she was only a quick train ride from me. It was like 40 minutes from me. So I went to meet her, and we hit it off really well. And then she broke my heart. Yep. She left me for somebody else that she met on a BBS. So I haven't thought about her in a long time. Yeah. Sixth Sense says, I used to get on the Radio Shack TRS-80 and run code, then leave the store. It was always something stupid. Yeah. 10 print Radio Shack sucks, 20 Gato 10, the Sixth Sense. I used to do that. Or this computer sucks, right? Color Space and Tripaton. Yeah, there were so many things. NSA cats, all dial-ups over to Bluffdale. Yeah, and then there was different kinds of BBSs too, depending what your interest. Mine was a general BBS, so there was a chat room, there was online games, there was message forums, there was a file section, but we didn't have pirate files because I didn't want to get busted. Back then, the FBI would kick down your door if you were keeping copyrighted software and letting people download it from your BBS. So I only had public domain or shareware or free software in our libraries, but there were boards you could call and get all the latest games and things. Those were called wares boards or pirate boards. Yeah. Yeah. Amy Collins says, I remember chats just like this one in 1995, just not attached to a live video. You're right. The chat room you're in right now is a lot like old BBS chat rooms, just a little fancier. Just a little fancier, and you have the live chat going right at the same time. Yeah, Patty says, now you never know who you're talking with. Exactly. Is it like women you meet from CB radio? Yeah, most of them were not very attractive. In fact, there was a term for girls on BBSs, and that term was very derogatory, but I'll share it for historical purposes. The term was modem heifer. If a girl was on a BBS, she would be a modem heifer until proven otherwise, right? But eventually, I think especially once like Windows 95 hit and so many more people got computers, that wasn't the case anymore. But in the early BBS days, if a woman was on a BBS, she probably wasn't very attractive. And the term modem heifer was used. But later, like 1995, I guess, so many more people got computers that there would be just hot chicks on a BBS that you could meet and talk to, right? Yeah, modem. People are laughing at the term modem heifer. Yeah. What's your 20, honey? Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Ian says, I hosted an Amiga demo running on an ESP32 and forced another programmer to outdo me, but he actually coded it. Now it's real. Yeah. Yeah. I missed the beginning. What is the name of the film? It's called JFKX. It's in the description of the video here. Right in the description of the video. It's called JFKX, Solving the Crime of the Century. And in the description of this video is a link to both the trailer, Ryder's, and also Ryder's YouTube channel, and to the Amazon link that you could get the film from. The word is thick. Yes. 5x5 News says, I used to tell people to hit Alt and F4. That way you could see the IP addresses. Yeah. I remember on BBSs too, we were always messing with people. Like new people would come into the BBS not knowing what the commands are, so we tell them to hit like /O to see the people in chat, or to see a naked girl's picture, and that would make them hang up from the BBS. You know, like all kinds of weird stuff like that we used to do, and we would really troll a lot of the new people, and you know, and then it would be interesting because it was all text. In order to see who you were talking to, in the file section, people would upload GIF files of themselves. They would digitize a picture and then upload a picture so you could see who you were talking to, right? I sent that via Google Drive, just so you know, email. Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Love the anecdotes. Yeah, someday we'll do a whole show. Some of you who participated in BBSs, we should do a whole panel show just on BBSs. Those were fun times, right? Amy Collins says, I was 110 pounds, but very geeky, a way that was less than flattering. Well, I don't know. When I was in that time frame, I would much rather date a nerdy girl that understood and wanted to like play video games and chat on BBSs than a normal girl that was maybe slightly more attractive but less nerdy. I always liked smart girls and nerdy girls because I felt like they understood me. All I wanted to do was like build computers and computer networks and program computers all day and night. Like, you could ask people that knew me growing up, like I wouldn't go outside. Like, I was just stuck in this, you know, command center full of computers. And then, you know, I would go out on trash day and pick the trash for computer parts and televisions and things to fix and solder. And yeah, I was a little awkward, very much introverted weirdo. I enjoy hearing about the good times. Yeah, it was a good time. And every once in a while, I say I'm going to do a BBS again because you can connect, people from all over the world can connect to it. But then I look at my friends that don't get, it takes so much time and energy and passion to create that system and have great artwork and all that stuff. And then, you get like one call, one person will use it a week. So it's just not worth the expended effort, right? Look at what geeking out did for you now. It was totally worth it. Yeah, well, yeah, I learned video editing, and I learned how to make music on computers besides just programming. I mean, programming has always been interesting to me, but I'm mostly more focused on what computers can allow me to do. Like this show, for instance, it's just incredibly empowering. With a good computer and good software, you can basically have your own television show, and people from all over the world, like you guys, can watch it. And that is just it makes me happy. It excites me, the power that technology can give you if you learn to wield it well. And I'm tremendously thankful that's what I got into as a child, and I was thinking the other day, though, like I just got just the proliferation of computers that you can get for virtually free or for free now. And I started with like, computers with 64 kilobytes of memory. Now you can find a computer in the trash that's got, gigs of RAM and hard drive space. It's just mind blowing how far we've come. Patty Wilhelm says, I remember the first computer we had at work. It was definitely not a flat screen. Yeah, Amy Collins says, frumpy hair, no makeup, shredded sneakers, downloading space shuttle press kits. Oh, yeah. I thought about getting back into assembly. I did a lot of that. Memory back then was so scarce you had to. Yeah, I learned assembly I learned 6809 assembly on the Tandy color computers that used the 6809 processor with 64 kilobytes of RAM. If you weren't programming in assembly, you weren't getting that computer to do very much. And for those unaware, that's machine code. There's no C, there's no interpreter. It's one step away from like speaking binary, learning the program in assembly. That's some major nerd stuff. And you had to have these assembly manuals. Remember that? 6th Sense? You had these manuals with the opcodes and what they did in the processor. You were talking right to that chip. And now there's all these abstraction layers between the actual hardware and the programmer. Back then, the programmer was talking right to the chips. Yes, Mr. Ian, peek and poke. Yes. 5x5 News. So I go back to Wayback Machine to see my first website and build in 1996 called Wow Inc. Oh my God, I had so many flashy, blinky, pointing things. Yeah, when animated GIFs were all the rage, right? Mark Tarana says he learned assembly in C. Yeah. It's kind of a name your price as long as you get it done sort of thing. Yep. Once you got good at it, you didn't need it so much. But yeah, I love the book. Yeah, and then I don't know, eventually when RAM and space got more plentiful, you could use a higher level language. I was really, really good at Pascal for a while. And then I got into C and other high level languages, and I never did assembly again because after a while you didn't need assembly. You don't need it today. But I'm aware that for, some people still actually use it, right? Yeah, you're right. Eventide says, apparently people that still know assembly are making big money these days on legacy systems. Yeah. Adaptable says, so true, Stephen. Thanks for sharing. Very relatable. Yeah, good. Well, we have done our due diligence, friends, maybe for tonight and as well as perhaps for the week. I'm going to be leaving for the cabin tomorrow night. I'm going to see if I have time tomorrow. I'm going to try to get an afternoon show in with some updates on the UFO Griff Squad. We'll be doing that tomorrow. Yes. The Sixth Sense says, yes, peek and poke memory locations. Sometimes your screen went haywire poking the wrong location. Yes, absolutely. Fortran and COBOL. I learned some of that. I had some old computers growing up. Yeah, if you peeked in a loop, you could read memory addresses in a nested variable and repaste it anywhere else in memory. Well, it's nice to see there's so many nerds like me in the audience, right? My first computer had 450 megabyte hard drive. I had to remove one game to install another. Shut up, Mark Tarana. My first computer had no hard drive. My first computer, I had to save data on a cassette tape, okay? Don't complain about a 450 meg hard drive. Yeah. JFK giving the secret societies a repugnant speech not long before that. He was about to expose their secrets and agenda. Yeah, a lot of people think that there was some secret societies involved in JFK. Yeah. Archaic Revival is getting 400 megabit a second. That's pretty interesting. That Video Professor commercial used to drive me crazy. Try my product, try my product, try my product. Yeah, you're right. That's something I don't miss. Mark Tarana reminding people, if you like Steven's work, please like, share, and subscribe. Watch another one of his videos even. Everything helps. Yes, our call to action is, apparently, if you come to a live show and then they see that you go back and watch another previous live show, they turn up the dials on the recommends for our videos. I guess they assume that we must make good content because people come back for more. So maybe not tonight, maybe tomorrow while you're working or traveling or whatever you're doing, please do watch one more. Come back and hit that live tab and watch one more of our previous broadcasts. We would really appreciate that and it would help. And of course, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. You can visit our website at truthseekershow.com. You really should follow me on Twitter. It's at Stephen Cambion. You can also join our Discord and chat with like-minded weirdos. We like weirdos 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, not just when we're broadcasting live. So please do join our Discord. We would appreciate that. So I may or may not be back tomorrow, but I promise you we'll do. I'll be back before the end of the week, which I guess would be Sunday. The summer is flying by, and I'm trying to get as much cabin time in with my family as possible. We've been having a great time there. This weekend, I'm going to pour the cement piers, I think, at least a few of them for the new cabin porch, which I hope to have done by the end of summer, but it's counting down. We only got 4 more weeks, so it might be early fall before that porch is on that cabin. But you know, progress is the key to happiness. As long as I'm making progress there every week, and I am, I'm happy. Oh, thank you. MK Ultra and Healing says, I fall asleep with the old episodes playing at night after work. Nothing like waking up to Steve's laugh. You know, somebody else told me they were sleeping to old episodes, but they had to stop because, especially in some of those older ones, like I'm pretty calm for like the first hour, and then I just start yelling and screaming, and it would wake them up. I apologize if you know. I'm not sure if the earlier episodes are great to sleep to because of that screamo stuff that I used to do. But we appreciate all of you who watched some extra episodes. We really do. It really does help. Apparently, like I said, YouTube will turn up. They will crank up the recommends that shooting out our videos to more people if they see people watching one more. So we've done our due diligence. I want to thank each and every one of you for your kindness, generosity, and support. All of our kind and generous benefactors, you Patreon members, you YouTube channel members, you super chatters, super sticker people, and of course, all of you there in the live chat as well. We want to thank our chat room moderators. We want to thank Mr. Ian and our guest tonight, Ryder Lee. Once again, the links to him are in the description of this video. Please do support independent filmmakers. If you don't, who will? And those of you on the list here, I have a list here. We have, before I forget, Egyptian Princess, S23, Bella, Mr. Ian, and Patty Wilhelm. Email me at truthseekershow@gmail.com. Give me your PayPal email address, and I'll send you the $250. You 5 have won a free rental of this movie, so you can experience this film for free, and I'm happy to help independent filmmaker in that way. It's my little way of I'm trying to get my karma right, because I really would like to make more films. So what can I say, friends? That's all I got for you. Thanks every one of you for joining us. Hope that you will join us again. So that's all I got, friends. Until next time, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you, especially you, JFK. Good night, friends.